Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Titan. In today's episode, the user asked the question, what are your all-you-can-eat buffet horror stories? And here are all the answers you're never gonna believe. One time, I went with my parents and some relatives to the Paris buffet in Las Vegas. My dad was starving himself all day so he could fill up on crab legs at the buffet. So anyway, these relatives are just bitter, people who make the whole day miserable. One of them is a very old woman in a wheelchair that my dad is pushing around all day. Basically, he's hot and hungry and miserable, but excited for dinner. Then, right when we get to dinner, the old lady throws up all over the table. Stinky old lady vomit that would bother anyone, but my dad specifically is a sympathy puker. The relatives tried to complain and say the food made her sick, but we didn't even eat yet. We ended up leaving without eating anything. Some other tables nearby cleared out as well. I was really young when this happened, but I remember my dad walking towards the table with a huge plate of crab legs and a big smile, and then his face just totally falling. LOL. My mother and sister are going to hometown buffet because she found a coupon in the newspaper. The whole buffet smelled heavily of bleach. All the food tasted like it was trying to die, but the preservatives were keeping it on life support far beyond the normal reason. I stuck mainly to the salad bar and fruits. I'm using the small portion plates to make salad with veggies and a little ranch dressing. I went back for a third small plate of salad and veggies. I grabbed the ladle and the ranch dressing tub and poured it over my salad. At that moment, a ranch dressing covered Lego man fell out of the ladle and onto my food. Way back before you need a Canadian passport to cross the border into the US, my family would make regular trips into Michigan and Ohio. Once we were at the Ponderosa buffet, and my dad put something on his plate that he couldn't identify. He wasn't sure if it was chicken or fish, even after tasting it, but for some ungodly reason, he ate the rest anyway. Cut to 20 minutes later, and we're all packed into the van listening to my dad loudly vomit repeatedly into a bush in the parking lot. He sounded like someone was forcibly tearing out his insides, and I still remember the sound to this day. People walked right past him and kept going inside. I'll never forget, when I was a teenager and working the buffet line at a Ponderosa steakhouse, this morbidly obese child, probably like 8-ish, had a plate with a mountain of food, like some of literally almost everything from the buffet. Mashed potatoes, pizza, chicken wings, jello, pudding, like everything piled on top of each other. So I go to him, BC, it was bizarre, and I'm like, hey, you know you can use a second plate? He said, I'm only allowed to have one plate. So like his parents were trying to restrict his diet, and he just found a loophole. But if you have a kid with this sort of issue, maybe don't go to a buffet, WTH? I remember going to one a few months ago, and there was a lady seated next to my table. I was eating roast beef when she asked me, hey, what's that you're eating? I told her it was roast beef. She said, looks good. Mind if I try some? And proceeded to go cut a piece off of my plate with the fork she had used. It is good, the lady said. She left to go get some more. I pushed the plate aside and finished everything else. I left to go cut some more roast beef when I see that there's no more roast beef, and I see the lady, I kid you not, with about 3/4 all that was left of it on her plate. I just got something else from the food bar. After about 30 minutes, the lady only ate a fourth of the roast beef before loudly exclaiming, I'm full! Excuse me, may I get my check? The waitress came over and said that she had wasted food and explained that they charged 20% more for wasted food. The lady got really mad and yelled, heck no! And I assumed she only paid what she was supposed to before the waitress told her she hadn't paid everything. The lady yelled, this is one business you guys have. And she finally agreed to pay. On her way out the door, she yelled, I'm telling all my friends about you guys, and stormed off. People just kind of looked at her and continued on. When I was an emo middle schooler, my best friend's mom forced me to join Girl Scouts with them. Once she took the whole Girl Scout troop out to a restaurant with a salad bar. I got stuck sitting next to a girl I hated. She was very religious, and this was the first time she had ever been away from her mom. She was around 14, and she wasn't allowed to have sugar. She ordered a large strawberry milkshake, chugged it, ate a huge plate full of spinach with ranch on it, and then vomited bright pink vomit all over the table, the floor, herself, and me. The worst part was that we had to sit in the car with her for the 2-hour drive home, holding our breath. Went to a buffet for my dad's birthday one Saturday night. The workers had just brought out the new tray of crab legs and there was a line forming. My family and I waited patiently in line when the guys in front of us started arguing because one of them was taking too long to pick which pieces he wanted. Argue turned to shoving, and then finally one of the guys pushed ahead and stuck his hands in the boiling hot water, grabbed a couple crab legs, threw them on his plate and left the line. Pretty sure he had to leave soon after because he had some serious burns on his hand. Years ago, I would take my father to lunch every weekend. He loved buffets, preferring all-you-can-eat restaurants over finer dining establishments. On one such lunch occasion, we were quietly enjoying our first plates, and I see a teenager hurriedly making his way to the restroom. The kid has one hand over his mouth, and puke is running through his fingers and around his cupped hand. I immediately lose my appetite, and I just hang out as my dad goes back a couple more times. Cut to 20 minutes later, and I see Puke Kid at the buffet, loading up his plate, handling the same serving utensils as everyone else, and I'm sure he did his best to clean up, but this still grossed me out. That's the moment it dawned on me that every customer, hygienic or otherwise, handles these same utensils. The guy that licks his fingers, the kid that picks his nose, the lady with an itchy armpit. Being 14 at the time, this had been my first buffet where I actually could eat as much as I want and not have my dad's mother dictate how much I could have. You don't want people to think you're a pig, do you? When I was so thin you could see my bones. I remember loading 2 plates and imagining eating them both. And then when I went back for dessert, I went ham on the ice cream. And I found that they had syrup stations for them. These syrup stations had those pumps, like a hand soap bottle. And when I used the first 2, hot fudge and caramel, you had to really slam your fist on them to get even a little bit out. Then I moved on to strawberry syrup. With all the might of Thor swinging down Mjolnir, I hammered the strawberry syrup, and what followed was like the scene from The Shining. Red liquid gushed from the pump and splattered spectacularly on my plate, my sweater, some poor lady next to me, all over the counter and the floor. It looked like I had murdered someone with a shotgun, and I remember standing there in utmost horror. Some people were laughing, but a lot of them who saw it looked understandably angry, and my mom came up to drag me away to the bathroom and yelled at me for making a mess. But thankfully the staff guy who came over found it funny and told my mom it was okay. It happened before. Every time we went to that buffet, I always warned, not jokingly unfortunately, about being gentle with the strawberry pump. Cracked knuckles. Finally. I got a twofer. We took our little family out to a local chain buffet, and during dinner, my 2-year-old son is pounding rolls and gets back with my wife to eat, so we switch and I take that other kids to get food. Well, I get back and thought I'd be a good dad and get him that orange slushy drink. He pounds it, and my wife said she got him one too. So in like 3 minutes, he drank both and was on to another roll and looks at me, and any parent will know this face he pulled. So I grabbed the first thing, a cup, and he barfs all the orange slushy back up into it. We cleaned up our table and explained what happened to the waitress, and ran out leaving it a much larger tip than needed, praying no one saw what he did. The other is this. I was at a golden crowd with my best friend. Growing up with a lot of Samoan friends, we learned to love food in high quantities and for cheap. So we went a lot when a girlfriend got hired. Well, one day we are double fisting steaks and she comes over to talk, and we notice this family start to get up and frantic. They rushing around grandma who is either choking or having a heart attack. We get up to help, but staff was there fast and pushed us back. Eventually, they get her back into her seat and she finishes the meal. We thought we saw an old lady die at a buffet. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. If you did, please like the video, subscribe for more content coming soon, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.